Front Street Crips vs. the Mob, the deadliest internal feud in Watts. In the gritty streets of Watts, Los Angeles, a deadly internal rivalry rages on between two notorious gangs, the Front Street Crips and the Front Street Mob. This bitter internal feud has left a trail of destruction in its wake, with innocent lives caught in the crossfire. Join us as we delve into the heart of this brutal conflict and explore what drives these rival factions to commit acts of violence that have shaken this community to its core. Brace yourself for an eye-opening look at one of the most dangerous gang feuds in Los Angeles history. The origins of the Front Street Crips in Watts can be traced back to the turbulent streets of Los Angeles in the 1970s. Born out of necessity and a desire for protection, this gang quickly established itself as a force to be reckoned with in the neighborhood. As tensions rose between rival gangs and law enforcement, the Front Street Crips found themselves at the center of an internal power struggle that would shape their identity for years to come. The Front Street Mob, or the Mob, is a small, tight-knit African-American street gang based in the Watts district of Los Angeles, California. Mob is an acronym for money over bitches and dates back to the 1990s. Despite their infamous rivalry with the Backstreet Crips, the Front Street Crips became their own worst enemy. Rise of the Front Street Mob. In 1996, due to infighting, Dennis "Baby Dreadline" Evans, an active member of the Front Street Crips, also a black belt in martial arts, formed a subgroup known as the Mob, aka Front Street Mob, or 101st Street Mob. By the late 1990s, the Front Street Crips declared war against the mob, provoking multiple killings. On May 19, 2000, Baby Dreadline was shot to death in the Imperial Courts by the PJ Watts Crips in retaliation for the shooting death of 17-year-old D'Angelo Anderson, who was killed by a Front Street Crips member across the street from Locke High School near 109th Street after being mistaken for a member of the Backstreet Crips on May 18th. A nightmare on Front Street. On January 4, 2002, 32-year-old Victor Farr was gunned down in cold blood on 107th Street in Watts. Detective Nickerson's investigation revealed that Farr had been attempting to defect from the Front Street Crips and join the ranks of the mob. As investigations unfolded, all evidence pointed towards members of the Front Street Crips as the prime suspects. On August 22, 2002, tragedy struck the streets as Devon Witherow, a prominent member of the Front Street Mob, met his untimely demise at the hands of a suspected member of the notorious Front Street Crips. The air was thick with tension as news of his murder spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. A once tight-knit community now found itself divided by fear and suspicion. This act of violence sent shockwaves throughout the community as tensions between the two gangs reached a boiling point. As law enforcement scrambled to piece together evidence and bring those responsible to justice, residents could only mourn yet another casualty in an ongoing war that seemed destined to claim more lives. The Front Street Mob's response to the death of Baby Dreadline. Following the death of their founder, Baby Dreadline, Rico Tidri Reed took charge and led the Front Street Mob in a series of calculated retaliation attacks on the Front Street Crips. The battle between these two rival gangs raged on, each side determined to emerge victorious no matter the cost. And amidst this bloody conflict stood T. Dre. On April 4, 2003, DeAndre "Squeak" Harper and Lakeisha Oglesby departed from Harper's home on East 103rd Street in Los Angeles. Harper, who was known as Squeak, was a member of the Front Street Crips gang. As they made their way to the street, a car pulled up and came to a stop. Two individuals got out of the vehicle and fired multiple shots, striking Harper twice in the head, instantly killing him. Oglesby attempted to flee, but was pursued and shot by the men. She flagged a passing police car for help, and the two pursuers fled. Oglesby suffered multiple gunshot wounds to her arms, back, and wrist. Harper was fatally shot. According to the pathologist, Harper's gunshot wounds reflected a back-to-front entry. 2 wounds to his head were rapidly fatal. Police officers recovered spent .45 caliber and .9 mm ammunition casings near Harper's home. On May 25, 2003, Daryl Davis, a Front Street Crips gang member known as Tiny T-Bone, was shot in the leg with a shotgun while walking on Central Avenue. He reported to police that an individual or individuals in a dark SUV had opened fire on him. The officers who responded recovered spent casings from a .9 mm and .40 caliber ammunition near the scene, as well as a cell phone found in the road. During the trial, It was agreed upon by both parties that Reed was the owner of the cell phone. Whispers of revenge. On August 7, 2003, Sheldon Terry and his nephew Farron Withero were driving down Paloma Avenue in Los Angeles. As they turned onto the street, Withero alerted Terry about the presence of Tiny T-Bone, who was later identified as a member of the Front Street Crips, who ran toward their truck with a gun. In response, Terry quickly pushed Withero's head down and accelerated. Tiny T-Bone fired multiple shots at the truck as he ran towards it, hitting the vehicle 4 times. Terry and Withero both knew Tiny T-Bone. Terry had grown up with his father and Withero had attended school with him, but Withero denied seeing the shooter or having any acquaintance with T-Bone. Though both Terry and Withero confirmed the incident as described by Terry, only Terry sustained injuries from 2 of the 7 shots fired by Tiny T-Bone. The next day, on August 8, 2003, Officer Gerardo Villar of the Los Angeles Police Department responded to Terry's information and tried to locate the shooter, known as Tiny T-Bone, a gang member. He found Tiny T-Bone in the driveway of a house within his gang's territory and noticed a handgun tucked into his waistband. Initially, Tiny T-Bone ducked behind a van and then ran for the yard. However, upon being ordered to stop by Officer Villar, he eventually complied and was apprehended. The officer also uncovered a loaded gun on the van's bumper in the driveway. On the evening of August 10, 2003, Andre Melton attended a gathering at a residence on 105th Street in Los Angeles. As a member of the Front Street Crips, he heard gunshots and quickly took cover. It was then that he realized he had been shot in the left hand. Another partygoer had also been shot and Melton drove him to the hospital for treatment. The paramedics later tended to Melton's hand wound. A spent .9mm ammunition casing was found in the street when police arrived on the scene. Edwin Oglesby reported that the gunman drove a gray Nissan Altima with chrome wheels. They also saw strike marks on the exterior walls that were consistent with gunshots, as well as bullet holes in Lakeisha's car. Rico T. Dre Reed from the mob was charged with shooting 4 individuals, including Andre Melton. He was found guilty of attempted willful, deliberate, and premeditated murder, as well as shooting at a habited dwelling. The jury determined that he used a firearm and committed these acts to benefit a criminal street gang. Aggravating factors were also identified. However, the jury was unable to decide on the charges of murdering DeAndre Harper or attempting to kill Lakeisha Oglesby. As a result, a mistrial was declared for those counts. The court sentenced Reed to 57 years to life in prison. In the aftermath of tragedy, the Front Street Mob, once a powerful force in the streets, now lies in shambles. The gang has lost its grip on the area, with its core members either behind bars or 6 feet under. What was once a gang that splintered off of Front Street Watts Crips, the mob, bounded by loyalty and brotherhood, has been reduced to whispers and memories. But despite the fierce competition and constant threat of retaliation from the mob, the Front Street Crips stood strong, refusing to back down or relinquish control of their turf. In the end, the Front Street Crips prevailed and emerged victorious from the conflict, solidifying their position of power over their neighborhood. With the Front Street Mob out of the way, the Front Street Watts Crips were able to shift their focus toward more pressing matters. With their main adversaries no longer posing a threat, they could now concentrate on dealing with their formidable rivals, such as the Backstreet Watts Crips and the Circle City Pyru.